He knew he was gonna pass early.
What was that like? Him saying, I'm not gonna be here for a long time.
He always kept saying, I'm gonna be dead, they're coming to get me, they're coming to get me. So I think he wanted to get as much done as he could.
People who were close to Tupac have claimed during interviews how he would constantly speak about how he didn't feel like he had that much time left on the earth, and how it would creep them out as he would always be speaking about his early death. George Price, also known as Papa G, who was once his publicist, claimed he would often have to tell Tupac to stop speaking about death as it would creep him out.
You talk too much about his mortality and about death. You know, I'm not going to live too long. I ain't got but a minute left. I say, don't even talk about that stuff around me.
So now, when we become attached to a certain idea or thought form that we keep festering on, the emotional energy which is formed in the process of thinking can literally cause the idea to manifest through what's been labelled as thought-induced phenomena. The term was put forward by a man called Robert Monroe, who trained the US Army in out-of-body experiences during the 1970s and the 1980s. The phenomena occurs when a person becomes so heavily attached to a certain thought form due to their emotional reaction to the idea that through cause and effect, under the influence of the idea in mind, the emotional energy generated causes the idea to manifest itself physically, with Tupac becoming so obsessed with the idea of his own early demise, with those close to him claiming how he would speak about it on a daily basis.
Die or whatever, it can happen. If anything would have happened to me, it's about 3 albums ready.
Could it have played a role in manifesting in physical life, with him dying at the young age of 25? In this video, we're going to take a look into in-depth information in relation to the case of Tupac Shakur and how it relates to thought-induced phenomena.
You listen through his music, you'll see there's a death chant. They're always talking about death. Don't forget you could die, I could die, we could die.
It seemed like something was nagging him, like he knew the clock was ticking.
Tupac Shakur, at points while growing up, had times where he was homeless due to his mother having substance abuse problems. When he was housed, the environment was not peaceful as he was subjected to constant FBI raids due to his mother's role in the activist group of the Black Panthers. His brother Mopreme Shakur described how while they were growing up, his mother along with others would school them about the FBI's COINTEL program, which was played against the Black Panthers, which locked a lot of them up and ended with a lot of them being dead.
A lot of that was wrapped up in coming from the revolution, seeing so many of our loved ones incarcerated, murdered.
Growing up like this, being while his brain and mind was still forming, it causes what's called hypervigilance, where a person feels as if they are always in fight or flight mode, literally expecting something to happen at any minute, even when there are no threats present.
He always had that sense of getting into it, like calm down, like sit down, and like he couldn't stay still.
This can cause people to be in a state of constant social aggression, where they will jump at any sign of conflict to then begin fighting due to being conditioned into fight or flight mode, always being defensive.
That's it! That's it! That's it! That's it! Stop! Now told the motherfuckers I was let them do my shit, and let's go!
Tupac's former bodyguard Frank Alexander had confirmed this in the 2002 documentary Biggie and Tupac, where he claimed that Tupac had a serious issue with social aggression, where he was constantly looking to start fights and defend himself.
Tupac was a disturbed soul when it came to fighting and stuff like that. He loved to fight.
He loved to fight.
Oh, he loved to fight, yeah.
This could have stemmed in his upbringing due to his personal need to always seek his own security, being in defending himself, only to then become amplified during his adult years with the increased exposure of stardom.
In the ghetto, that's the type of that we're taught. It's like in the army, you taught to kill, so you kill.
This obsession of self-defense was conditioned to him through his activist upbringing due to the Black Panthers' conflict with the FBI and the police subjecting his childhood to constant raids, including one which took place while he was still in the womb, where the officers held a shotgun to his mother's stomach. Tupac was conditioned into hypervigilance, which is the state of constantly assessing an area for threats, even if they're not present, as one has been programmed for the continuous need of self-defense in order to feel secure.
That's a character defect that was in me, and it's in a lot of other people.
This would explain Tupac's developed obsession over an idea of a young death due to his conditioned need of always feeling defensive. In Tupac's interviews, we can see just how the obsession over the idea had grown as it became a part of his open dialogue, where he attached the idea to his everyday conversation.
Where do you see yourself in 20 years?
If God give me breath for 20 more years, I see myself changing the world.
In that clip which we just played, we've seen when he is asked about his future, his immediate response was to instantly become defensive over his physical well-being by saying, quote,
If God give me breath for 20 more years.
People who had not been conditioned into hypervigilance would have answered with their goals or aspirations, but through Tupac's programmed mind of self-defense, his go-to answer was reinforcing his physical well-being through the idea of imposed threats within his mind.
I'm gonna be so far from where I am now in 4 years, God willing I'm alive.
This causes a person's subconscious to become attached to the idea due to how frequently or defaulted the person's mind has become, and this then causes the person to have nightmares about being attacked, which was confirmed by his brother Mopreme Shakur.
Pac would have dreams too. He would wake up screaming.
His brother confirmed how Tupac would wake up screaming from having dreams that people were actively trying to kill him, with this being due to how obsessed he had become with self-defense.
We've been having traumatic nights always. I want to get away from it a lot. I tried to get away from it, but you can't. That's what they taught me.
This became present in his 1995 third studio album, Me Against the World, with lyrics coming from It Ain't Easy, being, quote, wake up sweaty and screaming cause I can hear them suckers scheming, probably paranoid, problem is them punks be fantasizing, unquote. He was openly expressing how he was having nightmares of people killing him through his own paranoia and belief that people were constantly plotting against him.
He always kept saying, I'm gonna be dead, they're coming to get me, they're coming to get me.
On the same album, he has songs such as If I Die Tonight and Death Around the Corner. Death Around the Corner was written in the perspective of a character who would stand at their window all day locked and loaded with paranoia, with this soon manifesting for Tupac before the album had even been released. Tupac was shot 5 times in an attempted robbery in November of 1994, and his group artist Napoleon had confirmed how he grew extremely paranoid following this, and would answer the door with a weapon present, being in a constant state of fight or flight mode. Tupac signed to Death Row Records in October of 1995, being a label which promotes the death culture. Death culture is a socially engineered, programmed social structure, of which violence and death is promoted as cool and edgy, which causes people to become desensitized and seek bloodlust for entertainment. It is not only promoted through entertainment like movies and music, but also through the media by constantly placing people in a state of fight or flight mode through so heavily pushing the fear of death down their throats, be it through war, disease, and other dreaded events. Tupac's 4th studio album, All Eyes on Me, was released under Death Row Records in 1996. Tupac wanted to name the album Euthanasia, which is the word for being put to sleep. However, the owner of the label Suge Knight changed it to All Eyes on Me.
Pac wanted to name his album Euthanasia, mean life after death. I wanted to name it All Eyes on Me, and I named it All Eyes on Me.
Tupac's obsession with death continued throughout this album, with some of the lyrics being, quote, I heard a rumor I died, murdered in cold blood, dramatized. Pictures of me in my final stage, you know mama cried, end quote. Those around Death Row Records, such as the publicist Papa G, along with engineers like Tommy D, have both confirmed how Tupac, anytime they would see him, would be obsessing over his death, with Papa G claiming he would tell him to stop talking about it so much, as it would freak him out, with this clip only providing further examples of how it had become Tupac's default mindset as he had grown obsessed over it.
No promises made to be broken. I might get hit by a car and go to jail.
I was about to say that.
Now, this also occurs with most celebrities, but in different ways, due to their status and how they become so influential that they grow obsessed over their health, over their self-image and self-responsibility. Being with plastic surgery and a health obsession, it creates an obsession with death through the fear of losing their life. Tupac's group artist Napoleon had confirmed during an interview that Tupac signed to Death Row Records, as it provided him with the exciting environment he needed.
Show the cameraman how you go for the groin area. But don't forget us now, Death Row.
Because he thrived off of drama, from always being in a fight or flight mode. So with the combination of Tupac's obsession and a label promoting a death culture, it was just a disaster waiting to happen.
Rapper and actor Tupac Shakur is dead at the age of 25, just about a week after sustaining 4 bullet wounds last Saturday night in Las Vegas.
Tupac Shakur was fatally wounded on September 7th, 1996, being in a drive-by shooting while he was traveling down the Las Vegas Strip, riding with Death Row Records head Suge Knight as the driver. 3 hours before the shooting, CCTV footage revealed that Tupac had beaten down an LA Crip by the name of Orlando Anderson due to Tupac's hypervigilance in his problem of always looking to defend himself. Not only this, but also due to his allegiance to Suge Knight, as Suge Knight was caught up in promoting a deaf culture through gangbanging, with Suge Knight being affiliated with Bloods, and the person they beat down being a Crip. Tupac died on September 13th due to 4 gunshot wounds, with his murder still remaining unsolved. Just prior to his death, his group artist Napoleon described how his paranoia seemed to be acting up more than usual as he began to give his artists his possessions, hinting that he was not going to see them again. Napoleon had also revealed how he had showed them an anonymous letter from a woman who told him that his life was in danger if he stayed signed to Death Row. Death Row producer Kurt Cobain revealed how just before Tupac had taken a trip to Las Vegas where the incident took place, he had a tarot reading done for him where the outcome was the death card. Tarot cards are used to read a person's energy of the past, present and future, with the future being the outcome, with each card being symbolized with illustrations. Following Tupac's death being just a few weeks later, he had a feature verse which came out on Bay Area artist Richie Rich's album, with the lyrics being, quote, "I've been shot and murdered, can't tell you how it happened word for word." Unquote. We're now going to take a look into the phenomena being linked into Tupac's obsession with death and how it placed all of the events in motion.
Many people have a death wish. You can't stop that death wish because once you meet the master, they've got the process underway and they don't know, some do, but they don't really consciously know it.
With Tupac being so heavily obsessed with the idea of his death, to the point where it impacted his subconscious and he would have nightmares of it happening, it developed into creating what has been labelled as thought-induced phenomena. The term was first brought to the public attention being on page 185 of the 1994 book Ultimate Journey by Robert Monroe. Robert Monroe was a radio broadcaster who began to have spontaneous out-of-body experiences in the 1950s, which went on to him training the US Army on how to do it during the 1970s and the 1980s, an institute which he had opened dedicated to the practice. The discoveries made had revealed how thoughts emit a radiation which is generated as an output through the micro movements our bodies have when we have an idea. This is why you sometimes see people begin to cough or hack when they get uncomfortable, as it's the movement associated with the uncomfortable thought, giving off that sudden burst or release of the radiation or energy. Robert Monroe's discoveries revealed that the radiation, which he called M radiation, originates from a series of vibrational actions in the carbon-oxygen cycle, creating residual radiation in varying degrees of emotional amplitude directly due to how emotionally attached we become to the thought which is being generated. In the case of Tupac Shakur, we had seen that due to his conditioning and his amplified celebrity status, he became obsessed over the idea of death, growing paranoid at the constant idea of people wanting to murder him. We had seen in the previous clips coming from his everyday conversations that it had become his default mindset, with his social interactions being primarily based on the idea from how directly present it was on his mind through the attachment he formed to the idea of his death. With the radiation which is attached to the ideas, which Robert Monroe called M radiation, it is released into what has been called the morphogenetic field or the M field. On page 185 of Robert Monroe's book Ultimate Journey, he first described what he had called the M field. The book reads, quote, "There is a broad field of energy which for convenience is called M. It is virtually unrecognized in our contemporary civilization. It is the only energy field common to and operational both within and outside time-space, and is present in varying degrees in all physical matter." Unquote. The Global Consciousness Project set up devices around the globe being in the 1990s, with the hopes of collecting data based on the outputs of the radiation, using what they called electrodiagrams. The electrodiagrams were a geographically distributed network of hardware random number generators which were monitored, being to identify anomalous outputs that correlate with widespread emotional responses to sets of worldwide events. The devices are showed spikes in the resulting data being on days of Princess Diana's funeral and 9/11. So now on the same scale when it comes to Tupac's fanbase, it would have showed data on the day of his death due to his mainstream reach, as he had sold over 75 million records. Tupac's references to his early death throughout his music also impacted the morphogenetic field through his fanbase, being in what is called M-field interference. Robert Monroe described in his book Ultimate Journey how we are all unknowingly on a daily basis using the M radiation or life force energy being to communicate through what is called M-field interference. Page 185 of the book reads, quote, "All living organisms use M to communicate. Animals are more aware of M radiation than humans, who with few exceptions have no awareness of it at all. Thought is a much used perturbation of M, and emotions are bands of M adjacent to thought. Thought-induced phenomena will fall autonomic or sideband couplings of M, and thought affects and modulates M radiation. Humans are subject to constant M input from other sources, including human sources, without the conscious knowledge of either sender or receiver," unquote. So now, with Tupac having a worldwide audience who consumed his music and had their own emotional reaction to it, being whether good or bad, this creates what are known as egregores. Egregores are what are behind the phenomena of celebrities or influencers, and it is a lump sum of combined human energy within the morphogenetic field, which people are collectively attached to through a group thought form based around a topic or influencer. The collective human energy is repeatedly built upon through whatever the source is given out to the receivers, which is collected to create an accepted outcome based on the amplitudes of emotional frequency which are grouping within the field. This is why celebrities adapt to their fan bases and grow alongside them, as their energy is being fed collectively through output and reception. Robert Monroe wrote, quote, "Organized M-field radiation of a single individual can, if broadbanded enough, be many thousand times greater than that of the group. Whatever the source, reception can influence any mind and or body that contains resonant receptors," unquote. The larger the fan base, the larger the egregore, so the more exposure means the more influence the person has. Tupac has sold over 75 million records worldwide, with his lyrics promoting his early death, which then imprinted the minds of his fan base. With Tupac promoting his death in his music through his own paranoia, it caused his fan base to have an emotional reaction and literally envision it, which feeds the collective energy within the morphogenetic field, creating a receptacle cause and effect response due to Tupac's acceptance through the programming being that he would die young. Robert Monroe had wrote how the M-field interference effect being with the morphogenetic field and the thought radiation can be responsible for a person's physical death due to the emotional amplitude included attached to every thought we have. In Ultimate Journey on page 187, it reads, quote, "This interference is engendered unintentionally by the physical human mind manipulating the M-field. The results may vary from strong physical health through immunity to severe illness, as well as their remission, placebos, miracle cures to physical death," unquote. As this manifestation begins to roll out in real time, which creates each step or event leading up to the given outcome, it is able to be foreseen by those connected to the same egregore or collective thought form, with this being seen with death row artist Jewel. She revealed herself and another female who were close friends with Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, with Jewel being an artist on the label, both on the night of the upcoming Fatal Trip, had a dream of Suge Knight and Tupac being killed in a drive-by shooting while on the Las Vegas Strip. This happened as due to her subconscious being strictly within the morphogenetic field while dreaming, she had tapped into the stream of the collective conscious energy being attached to the egregore to get a glimpse of the upcoming accepted outcome through the thought-induced events leading up to it. In this video, we took a look into how Tupac was able to predict his own death. However, he didn't predict it, but literally manifested it through what's known as thought-induced phenomena. Tupac became obsessed with the programmed death culture due to his ego identity of feeling the need to be defensive due to the events of his upbringing which caused him to become overly attached with the idea of his death, to which it became his default mindset. He then acted out on this energy on a daily basis, seen in the examples of his recorded social interactions, which caused thought-induced phenomena to take place. Before the beating in the MGM Grand lobby, Tupac and Suge Knight had also just seen a Mike Tyson fight, with combat sports being a part of the death culture, originating from Roman gladiatorial blood sport, with combat sports being one of the highest producers of low amplitude frequencies of human radiation, causing fight or flight mode to occur in high volumes, which may have amped Tupac up even more than usual, maybe playing a part in his death. During the fight, a necklace of the Angel of Death which Tupac was wearing had broken off his neck, symbolizing what was about to come, with this being another part of thought-induced phenomena, as he decided to wear that piece on that night, which broke during the fight, which most believe was responsible for his demise. Let me know what your thoughts are on all this in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, smash the thumbs up button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and press that bell button so you can get all the future notifications for when I upload. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.